Chancellor was hoping that the measures he announced in his spring statement yesterday would fight the cost of living crisis, with inflation hitting a 30-year high.
Yeah, but Labour have said that he's just making things worse. We're joined now by the Shadow Chancellor, Rachel Reeves. Good morning to you, Rachel Reeves. Thanks for joining us. I think the Chancellor will point to the fact that he's put £10 billion to ease the cost of living. He's cut fuel duty by 5 pence on a litre. There's zero VAT on some of the green tech that's out there. Boosts from national insurance being reduced. There's a penny coming off income tax in 2024. You know, all sorts of things that feel like they should make a difference. Our viewers certainly don't feel like they are at all. What was your reaction?
Well, if you take things in the round and look at both what's happening with taxes and also people's take-home pay, then it is a pretty bleak picture for many. The tax burden is now the highest it's been since the 1940s. And by the end of this Parliament, 7 out of 8 working people will be paying more in taxes. Only 1 in 8 people will see their taxes fall. And at the same time that the Chancellor is taking more money from people's purses and wallets in taxes, people's disposable incomes are falling. And we've got huge cost of living pressures, whether it is the weekly food shop, the price of petrol at the pumps, or indeed, and probably most importantly, gas and electricity bills. People are under huge pressure. And I don't think that the package yesterday really rose to the scale of the challenge that families and pensioners across the country are facing right now.
Undoubtedly, what the Chancellor will point to is that this is unprecedented, as we've heard that phrase a lot over the last 2 years with the pandemic and with what's happening with rising fuel costs, particularly the war in Ukraine and the impact that that's having on the way he can use the funds that the country have to help and distribute. And he's doing everything he possibly can at the moment. And, of course, there are more things up his sleeve that are going to come out. What is it that Labour would do to try and ease some of those issues for our viewers this morning?
The key thing is that Labour yesterday, if I had been Chancellor, would have introduced a one-off windfall tax on the big profits being made by North Sea oil and gas companies right now. The chief executive of BP said that his company is like a cash machine right now, but the people paying out are British families who are seeing their fuel prices and their gas electricity bills just go up.
We know that the Chancellor has said about those windfall taxes that we don't want to scare off investment from the energy companies, particularly now when we're trying to cut off our reliance on Russian fuel. Now is not the time to be scaring off those people that are sort of helping us bring fuel from our own part of the world. And actually, by doing that, we could make that a reality. And that right now is when we want to offer them the opportunity to invest in the infrastructure in this country, because that costs billions of pounds.
Well, the executives of these companies are saying they've got more money than they know what to do with. And what they are doing with that money and what they announced when they announced those huge profits was that they're increasing the dividend payments to shareholders, and they are paying bigger bonuses to their bosses, and they are embarking on a share buyback scheme to further inflate their share price. They didn't announce big investment plans. We would use that money from the windfall tax to take VAT off domestic gas and electricity bills and expand the warm homes discount for those families and pensioners on modest and lower incomes who we know are struggling most at the moment with those rising gas and electricity bills. Chancellors have to make choices about who to tax and who to shield. This government has chosen to tax ordinary working people and to shield the profits of these big oil and gas producers. We would do everything we can to protect ordinary working people, but ask those businesses who are making such huge profits at the moment because of those inflated gas and oil prices, and ask them to pay a bit more to keep bills low for everybody else. That is the choice that Labour would have made yesterday.
Has Keir Starmer made a mistake in initially backing the idea of nationalising public utilities, but then doing a U-turn on that and saying he doesn't back that? At this stage now, wouldn't that be a stronger offer to the viewers this morning as an alternative, rather than a one-off windfall tax, which, of course, is something that many might support? But this idea, it needs something much bigger than that, doesn't it? Because this looks like it isn't just a flash in the pan inflation is going to carry on rising, people are going to struggle to pay their mortgages. Why hasn't the Labour Party looked again at renationalising public services, as it had done previously, and backed it?
I think you're right to say that this needs more than a short-term fix. We would take measures now to keep bills low this year, but we do need to ensure that we are tackling issues of energy security and price rises.
So will Labour look at that policy again, Rachel? Are you going to look at that again closely, you and Keir Starmer, and say, do we need to rethink our policy on renationalising the public utilities? Because Rishi Sunak clearly has an eye on the next general election. We know that from, delaying the drop from 20% to 19% for the basic rate of income tax, which comes in 2 years. He's got an eye to a general election.
Let me address your question. Look, a Chancellor has to say, and a Shadow Chancellor, where the money is going to come from. I have said that all the money from that windfall tax would go into keeping bills low. A nationalisation programme would cost a huge amount of money, and you would have to explain where you would get the resources to do that. What I have set out is a big plan for climate investment, a climate investment pledge worth £28 billion a year. We would use that money to insulate homes and to have a huge investment programme in new nuclear and renewables, from hydrogen to tidal power to offshore and onshore wind, but crucially insulating homes to take money off people's bills, not just for 1 year, but for years to come. And a programme like that could save people £400 off their bills. That is a fully costed package of measures, because my priority right now is doing everything I can to help people with the cost of living crisis and keeping their bills low.
OK, Rachel Reeves, thank you for joining us this morning. I know we kept you a couple of minutes longer than we should have. We do appreciate your time.
Thank you.